this over real quick. Alright. Alright, we're sitting down here with Brian Nero. Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, everything?
Yeah, sure. So I live in Richmond, Virginia right now. I'm the filmer and kind of the person that puts it all together for what we call the No Names Crew. We're a Southeast-based snowboarding filming group. So
That's sweet. I know, how'd you get into snowboarding and everything?
All right. So growing up in right outside of DC, there's not like a ton of people in snowboarding or like really skateboarding and stuff. Especially back like 20, 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. So when I was really young, my family went skiing like once, maybe twice a year. I would ski. I liked it, but I definitely wanted to do other stuff. I actually had two cousins that were professional wakeboarders, and they both snowboarded and skateboarded. So like going and visiting them all the time, they were constantly just like, yo, you got to try this other stuff. So my parents, obviously seeing that I wanted to do that stuff, let me start trying snowboarding. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I started doing that, I just didn't go back to skiing.
Who are your two cousins?
Jeff and Bill McKee. One is still wakeboarding, the other's retired, and he lives out in California now.
That's sick.
So, yeah.
Do you remember what was like the first mountain that you ever went snowboarding at? No one really cares about this.
Yes, part. Actually, I do. Yeah, exactly. I do remember it was at Wintergreen, which is actually, it's like 2 hours from here. It's one of 3 resorts in Virginia.
Sweet.
And I remember getting there, getting a rental board. I remember sitting on the slope, and it was on like a weird day, like a Tuesday or something, and there was no one else in my class. I had the coach or whatever to myself, which is like kind of fun. So
that's sweet.
It's kind of crazy. I still remember that actually because that was a long time ago.
Well, it's definitely kind of crazy when you think about. I mean, even though we're on the East Coast and everything, I don't really associate Virginia and like the kind of the southern area with having a scene down here. So it's kind of rad that you were able to like learn how to snowboard and stuff down here in Virginia, especially at Wintergreen. You started snowboarding and stuff. Do you remember when it kind of became a little bit more than like, oh, I just snowboard, and you became like a snowboarder, quote unquote?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I would go like 1 or 2 times a year maybe with my family, just as like a little family vacation. Mm-hmm. And like each time I went, I loved it so much because I was really into skateboarding at the time, and I was like decent for my age, but like for snowboarding, it was so much easier to like do stuff that I wanted to do on a skateboard. Like on quarter pipes, it was easier to get air on a snowboard because it was attached to your feet. Yeah. So I like wanted to go more and more, and I like pressed my dad into letting me do my first contest. I think I was probably like 12 or 13, and we did it actually at Wintergreen. And I mean, I lost. I was horrible. Like I went 1 or 2 times a year, but it was so much fun. And at that point, I just each winter just tried to start going more and more, asking friends in middle school and high school if their parents were going up and driving them. I would try to catch a ride. So I would go from like 2 times a year to maybe the next year I went 8 times. And then really, as soon as I got my driver's license, that's when I just started trying to go every single weekend. And at that point, I was kind of like locked in. Like, all right, this is what I want to do. All that kind of stuff.
I think that's something that a lot of kids definitely benefit from. Is once they get their driver's license, it's a wrap. If you love snowboarding, you're always going to go to the hill because now your parents aren't like, oh, well, I'm not going to take you or anything like that. So that's sick. That I feel like everybody kind of has this similar journey when you're growing up and you get your license and then you want to do it. Now, obviously, we kind of know you more for the filming side of everything. When did you pick up a camera and kind of start doing that?
All right. So it probably wasn't until like senior year in high school, freshman year in college, I had a couple friends at the resort that throughout that year, I was like getting to know more and more. And when I went to school for the first year, college for the first year, I ended up going to a smaller school that was really close to the resort, so I could ride there every day. Mm-hmm. I feel like we kind of just would pass around like an old GoPro or something and film some stuff. And then I met my, now the No Names. I started meeting them at another resort that we'd go to sometimes.
And what resort was that?
That was Liberty Mountain up in Pennsylvania. And at that point, our one buddy, Zach, had more of like a smaller dad cam with like a generic like wide angle lens on it. Mm-hmm. And we would kind of pass that around more and more. And as we would get better with trick-wise and we wanted to film it, it just slowly started where I would film a little bit more and more. And I just started kind of really getting into it, trying to film better. Mm-hmm. I was always into watching snowboard movies and watching edits and all that kind of stuff, and I just tried to copy everything I possibly could from those videos in terms of filming, even though I was filming on this really small, crappy camera. It was nothing like what they were doing, but to me, like, I thought I was filming, the same kind of stuff as them. So that's when it really started to catch on, is kind of doing all that stuff.
You said... There's a couple of questions that I want to ask you after this, but you said obviously you were watching snowboard films. Do you remember what your first snowboard film watching?
Yes, it was Right Brain, Left Brain from Think Tank, one of the best snowboard movies ever.
It really is. Scotty Stevens has an amazing part in there.
Yeah,
it's really good. Are you a big fan of the whole Brain Farm series and Think Tank movies?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. I love that style filming. Just old school skate, fisheye. They're more about having fun and unique stuff. So it was more about being creative than just going and doing a backflip or something crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it definitely has that old school vibe and stuff like that. And I have to agree with that those movies stood out in a creative sense versus some of the other ones that was just raw trick selection.
Yep.
This was all about the vibes and kind of the good times. And the Think Tank movies, and for me personally, the Forum movies were always the ones that kind of convinced me to be part of the snowboarding lifestyle versus just doing tricks and stuff like that.
I totally agree. I mean, at that point, when those movies came out, it was all about crazy outfits and stuff you could wear. I just remember Nick Visconti's first part in that movie. He was wearing the most ridiculous pants, but it was kind of exciting because it just showed you hey, it doesn't matter what you wear, just go out there and I don't know, if you own this or you own that, just go out and have fun and be creative, which made it cool. So that got me super, super, super sparked into getting going and getting in the scene and filming more and trying to get more a part of it.
Yeah, definitely becoming a snowboarder versus someone that just snowboards,
Yeah.
So obviously you started picking up the camera and stuff, but was there a while at the end of high school that you were trying to go for I'm gonna be the pro snowboarder route and the sponsored guy route? Or?
Well, I never really was I'm gonna go. I don't I never thought oh, I want to be a pro snowboarder. When I was younger, I was really into skating because I couldn't go snowboarding. Mm-hmm. At that point, I think every little kid's oh, I'm gonna be a pro skateboarder. I'm gonna be a pro snowboarder.
Yeah.
At that point, I knew if I go enough, I might be able to get regionally sponsored or something like that, which it did happen. But I never really thought I'm going to take this all the way. It was more maybe I can get some free stuff, support some brands here and do some stuff. At that point I was kind of working park crew during the winter at a couple of resorts, but I was also at the end of high school and throughout college and even after college, I was working at my local shop up in Northern Virginia. So working there, I was always introduced with new sales reps and stuff.
Yeah.
And I kind of understood how the process works in terms of actually getting hooked up and why you're getting hooked up. Mm-hmm. I feel a lot of kids that don't work at shops, they just see being sponsored as I'm just gonna get a bunch of free stuff and do whatever I want. But at that level, it's the reps want you to do stuff because you're getting free stuff. It's not just go do really hard tricks. It's participate in events and help me out at demos and stuff like that. So
I think that's the big thing that a lot of kids forget. They think it's all about just the snowboarding, and there's so much more to getting sponsored and the next level that a lot of kids, it just misses kids,
Yep.
So you said that you worked terrain park crew. Where did you work terrain park crew at?
So I ended up transferring schools sophomore year in college. I went to a branch campus of Penn State,
Okay.
And that was right next to Liberty Mountain, which I mentioned before. And if people don't know, Liberty Mountain's a small mountain on the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland, really close to Gettysburg.
Okay.
And worked there for about a season and a half. I would actually work Wednesdays and Sundays, and it worked perfect with my school schedule. Because Wednesdays I had like one class at like 6 o'clock, so I'd go there in the morning and like literally work in the morning and then ride all day. And then also my buddy David, he was in school too, and he had the opposite schedule of me in terms of working. So I would work while he rides, and then he would work while I ride. Which when you're doing terrain park, especially at a small resort, like working is like rake a lip every I don't know hour. So like we're basically snowboarding the entire time and getting paid for it.
I've always wanted to work terrain park and stuff like that for that similar reason, because it's just like I feel like terrain park crew is where almost the heart and soul of snowboarding really is.
Yeah.
Just because you're always interacting with kids, you're pushing the progression of the park and stuff like that. And I know it can be difficult because sometimes like the mountain doesn't really want you to do anything crazy, but like I don't know. I feel like for me too, when I really started getting into snowboarding, I looked up to like the terrain park crew dudes up at Killington, kind of my local resort, my home resort, because they were just super nice, and they were always like, "Yo, you gotta be trying snowboarding and stuff like that," and like, "Yeah, sick, like you landed that first trick and stuff," and like I was hyped to be able to hang out with them.
Definitely, they're the ones that are like really in it, because they're the ones that are trying to make the park really fun, maybe for themselves a little bit, but they're the ones that are there all the time, and they're going to be pushing it, so it kind of makes it more fun for everyone.
Did you guys ever do that, like set up features just for yourselves?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think every park crew person has done that. You can't like not do that.
Yeah,
like,
I feel that. Well, because everyone's like, I think this is going to be a sick feature, so we should put it in. And more than likely, it's going to be something that you think is sick. Maybe not like someone else. But it just ends up happening that if you're a core snowboarder and you think it's sick, more than likely someone else is going to think it's sick.
Definitely.
So how did kind of being part of the terrain park crew help your outlook on snowboarding and like your skills? I'm guessing since you were riding every day, it kind of boosted all your skills and everything.
Definitely, those couple years is probably when I was best at riding, because I was riding every day. But at that point, that's when I actually got a job in the summer at Snowflex, and there was no terrain park crew then. There was one guy, his name's Casey, and he does the rental shop, and he manages the park, just keeping features kind of like up to date and make sure they're not falling apart. Yeah. It kind of became at the point where like it was too much for him to do all of it. And when I was working there, I was just a lifty. I literally every day I would work the top lift, and at night I would go ride. And there were some features on the side that were kind of falling apart, and I kind of convinced Casey to let me, like, in my free time, not even getting paid, like, fix it up, because I just really wanted to ride it. And that's kind of like, that time is when I was riding Snowflex in the summer and in the winter still riding. So I was riding like over 100 probably 50 days, like a year snowboarding.
Yeah.
Like in Virginia and Pennsylvania. And that's probably when I was best at snowboarding, but still nowhere near like,
Yeah.
I mean,
the
yeah.
level that's needed.
Yeah.
So you were working there, and then so you met the No Names crew guys up at Liberty. Were you working at Liberty and you met them, or?
Yes, it was actually the end of the season before that. I met them at the very end of the season. I think it was like end of February, March. I met Alex, who lives here in Richmond now with his wife Hannah, and then David. I also met at the end of that season, who I ended up working with the next year at Liberty. And then we slowly kind of, as we would travel to different resorts in that small little area, but also going to Snowflex, we kind of started meeting more people and kind of just like adding to the group. So like our friend Daniel, we invited him on like a Snowflex trip that we were doing in the fall time. And we never met him before. We just knew he was a good snowboarder, and from what we heard from some other people, he was pretty cool. And apparently he lived pretty close to us. So we're like, hey, why don't you just come down with us? And he ended up having a great time, and like now he's one of our best friends.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so.
See, snowboarding grows every single day. Every time you go on the hill, you always add another person in the group, you know?
Exactly.
It's crazy with how the culture works that way. So you guys were there at Liberty. How did how did actually the name of No Name's crew like come about? How did you guys come up with that?
All right, so we actually used to be called Catman Productions. Alex used to be called the Catman because he would never fall, and if he did, he would somehow land on his feet. So again, he would like never fall somehow, and he also would never do flips. So that was just his nickname, and I don't know why we just came up with that name and did that for a couple of years, just filming goofy. That's when I was filming on that little dad cam, yeah, just filming whatever. And it was my senior year in college. We decided, all right, for the entire year, that's when I had my nice camera and my nice lens, and I was like, all right, let's like actually do something like, you know, kind of cool. Like let's do like a whole movie. Mm-hmm. So we spent all year filming a movie, not necessarily like street footage, just like whatever we could film snowboarding wise.
Yeah.
And we were trying to come up with a name for the movie, and I don't honestly remember how the name came about. Someone suggested like, oh, let's just call it No Names, like a bunch of no names people from like a region that like honestly no one really pays attention to. So we'll just call it No Names. And then after that, we were like, let's just change our name to No Names. Like it makes way more sense.
It's a better name than Catman Productions.
Yeah, and it's like not as goofy. So yeah.
With that, what camera did you have when you like had your nicer camera and everything?
Yeah, so I have a Panasonic HVX 200A.
Of course, classic.
Yeah, with a Sentry Extreme fisheye. And actually, I worked a couple summers at Snowflex to buy that, so I used all the money that I got from Snowflex to buy it. So
you ever nick that lens?
I've never actually hit my lens snowboarding. The only time it's ever been hit is from a skateboarder. And it's when we'll probably talk about this later, but when I worked at Wendell's, I had to film a skateboard contest, and the skateboard like barely hit it, didn't do any damage. But I'm actually I feel very confident filming snowboarding. Mm-hmm. I like refuse to film skateboarding with it because like I don't want the board to like shoot out and hit it. Yeah. Like I feel like I can judge snowboarding pretty well and like position how they're getting on the rail, even if they catch their toe edge or heel edge off the lip, like I generally know like I can jump back and turn and
protect the lens.
I'm not letting them hit that thing.
No, dude, that thing's way too... there's stories of kids taking out like full-blown insurance policies on that because it's so expensive. So obviously you guys were doing the No Names crew videos up at Liberty. Did you guys immediately jump into kind of doing the full length, or were you guys putting out edits before you did the longer?
Yeah, we were just doing a bunch of small little...
That's right, because you guys said you were doing the Catman videos.
Yeah, just we did like a mini series. We called it Libisodes for Liberty, and I think we did a 3-part series. I think only episode 1 is still on the internet. There were a couple other kids that like were filming with us too, and I think they ended up hosting the other ones. I have no idea what happened to them, but those are fun to film. That again, just us kind of just like, hey, let's just film for like 30 minutes, like while we lap, something like that. It wasn't anything like really official.
Yeah. Did you so you guys put out the full movie, like the No Names video, and then you mentioned the street riding. So is there street riding here, like kind of obviously in more northern parts of Pennsylvania, you can kind of get away with it, but did you guys ever like get the snowfall to be able to do it?
Yeah, so during that season, we filmed, there's some clips in like Maryland and Baltimore. We didn't film any in like DC or like Virginia. Not saying it's not possible here, but just for the actual movie. Most of the footage was definitely like Pennsylvania near Pittsburgh and like Erie, and then like Maryland and Baltimore and some spots in there, just because it was like near where like David and Daniel both lived in Rockville, Maryland, which is like 30 minutes north of DC. And then Baltimore is really close to there too. So they were able to kind of travel when it snowed there. And then our buddy Jason, he was living up at Seven Springs at the time. So he could go get clips in Pittsburgh, or like Erie is like 2 hours, 3 hours north of like Seven Springs up the turnpike. So not too hard to travel.
Were you doing all the filming for that stuff in PA? Or was it someone else?
So the movie itself, I would say I probably filmed like maybe 50-60% of it. other people in our group used my camera to film, but we also had just like, hey, you're in this movie. Oh, you filmed with some other filmer, like whatever. Just like give us your clip. Like it's definitely not like all one really nicely filmed like video. There's definitely some like
janky parts.
Yeah, which you know what, we were like, this is just going to be more fun to put it together and have everyone shots.
Yeah, it was like it's a crew video at that
Yeah.
point. It's not like a production video where it's got to look a certain
Exactly.
way and everything.
And I was still in school. Most of us were still in school. Like we didn't have a budget. Like I can't just travel all over. You know.
Yeah, doing that type of stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work. So, yeah.
So then you did the full length video. How did you, at that point, get linked up with like Snowboarder Mag and kind of doing that? Or are you jumping a lot of steps?
You're jumping a lot of steps. Yeah. So honestly, when I filmed our movie, I still had no idea what I was doing. Like I generally knew I was okay, but it was at the end of that season. Ian Macy, who was the Seven Springs head filmer, he was also becoming the head filmer at Wendell's. He had been working there for I think like 3 or 4 seasons. So he needed another snowboard videographer, and I knew him from Seven Springs, and he knew like I had some work to do in terms of filming, but he knew he could probably teach me some stuff like literally in the first week or 2.
Yeah.
So I actually got hired to be the snowboard videographer for Wendell's for the last summer. Where Wendell's was like just Wendell's.
Yeah.
And that was like, I mean, way more you could learn in any like classroom setting. It was like an immediate crash course on like how to film.
Yeah.
But not just how to film, but like how to like work with people in film. Like there's a big difference between just like filming someone do something and like working with someone to like actually film stuff that's going to be meaningful. Sometimes riders want to do stuff, but it might not even look good in terms of like lighting or like what the feature looks like, or like you just don't have the right equipment to make it look the correct way.
Yeah.
So you got to work with people, and that whole 3 months was like insane. We would go up on hill, I'd film for like 4 hours straight. I'd go home, I'd dump footage, I'd name footage. We'd go to the skate park, I'd film skateboarders, and back then I had to film skateboarders because it was part of my job.
Yeah.
And then do it again for 3 months. So I was literally maxing out 232 gig P2 cards every single day in terms of footage. Damn. So I was getting like really like way more experience filming, figuring out where to stand, like where to actually, how much to tilt, like long lens, how to film big jumps, how to film like hips, like all that kind of stuff. But then also working with like professional riders. You know, like Haldor Higginson like came through and stuff. So like people like they know how to film with like filmers, and they expect you to come up to them and like work with them and get stuff done instead of you just like, hey, can I film you? They're like, okay.
Yeah, there becomes more of like a mission goal of like getting a clip. And of course, those dudes at their level have such like, I don't know, I would call it, they have their own image on the way that they want it to be filmed and stuff. So I know what you mean. It becomes much more of like a coordination. You're talking between two people versus just like, yo, I'm just going to film this and however it looks, it looks. You know?
Exactly.
That's pretty crazy, especially, you know, Wendell's. We were up at Hood earlier this summer and stuff, and that place it's amazing. There's nothing like Hood for snowboarding, especially during the summertime. It links up so many good people and stuff, and I'm sure that's where, you know, that must have been an awesome experience to be able to like learn all that type of stuff.
Definitely. It was like I said, it was like a crash course in like filming, but also like just how to act with riders and professionals and people in the industry in general, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Did you, so from Wendell's, obviously you knew Ian Macy. Did you film with him at all at Seven Springs?
So before that, like when we would ride Seven Springs, that was our local mountain, and that prior season before he hired me for Wendell's, like I would still, when we would go up there to film for the No Names movie, like we'd get clips, and then like every once in a while, like if I had a decent clip of, I don't know, if he was filming someone else not in our group or someone from our group, but we weren't going to use it for the movie, I'd like send it over to him. Mm-hmm. So like we had like that's kind of like the start of a relationship where we got to know each other. I knew who he was from the last couple seasons because he had been the videographer up there. Mm-hmm. But he was also like, at that point, he was getting hooked up too, like regionally. Like he was Ian's a really good snowboarder. He still is like a really good snowboarder. So I knew who he was because he was one of the bigger name people in our region.
Yeah.
Like getting hooked up and doing contests and riding for shops and stuff.
Was he getting hooked up by Rome?
Yeah, he was getting hooked up by Rome.
I rode out with him when I worked out at Woodward, and because he's the head videographer out there and everything, and I remember watching him, and I was like, damn, I've never seen a filmer like ride that well.
He's got that lengthy style too, which like looks really good.
Yeah.
So
sick, dude. Such a sick rider for sure. So you guys were working with him, and then Wendell's. Obviously, did you have to film any like skiing while you were out there, or was it mostly just?
I think I filmed like maybe 10 ski clips. There's actually one. I don't know anything about free skiing. Mm-hmm. Like I've never really followed it. Even though I worked in a ski shop, we sold snowboards, and I did that side, so I didn't really do much with skiing.
Yeah.
But there's this one dude there. His name's Crazy Carl, and like he is insane. Like filming him, I would film just because he wouldn't do crazy spins or like crazy rail tricks. He would just go for the most insane gaps that you would never think are possible. Like go off the lip of the big jump sideways and like jump over like a couple rail like platforms to like the back trainee of like this like, you know, it's like a 60, 70 foot gap. That's not really like just stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're like, well, of course I'm going to film this. Like that's pretty cool. But in terms of filming skiers, no, I didn't really get to film skiers. Not that I really wanted to because I was a snowboarder. Mm-hmm. But it worked out where back then they had a ski filmer, actually 2 ski filmers. They had a skate filmer, and then me and Ian were the snowboard filmers. It ended up towards the end of the summer. Ian was so busy editing and doing all this other content that Wendell's wanted him to do because he was the head videographer.
Yeah.
He managed like all the videographers. So he was constantly editing and doing all these projects for them where it was kind of just me filming every session recap by myself, which definitely got stressful towards the end of the summer, but I mean, we made it work.
Did you, I know there's like camper videos and stuff. Did you have to do any of those, or was it all like?
Wendell's did not do that. High Cascade did that, and High Cascade had way more filmers than we did.
Yeah.
They had, I think, 2 people specific for like just filming campers and putting those out. Okay. So that's all their job was. For me, my job was get enough clips to be able to put together a session recap and make our park look like decent.
Yeah.
Especially at the end of the summer. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know when else you've been to Hood, if you've ever been at the end of the summer, but sometimes it's
it looks like crap.
Yeah, so
the volcano planet or something like Mars.
It's a lot of work to keep it looking good and fresh and just online for doesn't matter when a kid's watching it to get stoked to go to camp. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, because it becomes more like the marketing videos basically versus
exactly. That's yeah.
So you knew Ian and you were working at Wendell's. Did you work at Wendell's multiple seasons, or was it just like did you transfer over to High Cascade when they kind of like
no? I only worked at Wendell's for the 1 season. The next season, that's when I was done at Wendell's, I moved back to Virginia and I started working full time at my ski shop. Mm-hmm. I became like a half marketing manager, half like salesperson, which I was already doing. Mm-hmm. So I worked there full time, and I mean, honestly, I kind of got everything that I wanted out of Wendell's. It was super awesome, but all my friends are back here, still snowboarding and skateboarding. Like, it was cool seeing all these pros and stuff, but really I just wanted to, like, go snowboard with my friends. Mm-hmm. And the way that camp worked back then, and I'm sure it probably still works like this, like, you know, you're not going there to get a paycheck or anything like that. So I still had expenses, and I couldn't really, like, leave a good job and, like, go make less money when I knew I wasn't really going to do filming as a profession. I don't know. I love watching snowboarding videos and stuff. I just didn't know if I wanted to take like my entire year each season to like go do a project or something like that. I'd rather like just do something more here where I can be more flexible, hang out with my friends, and like still be able to film and stuff. So I moved back to Virginia, and the next summer that's when they were transitioning. At that point, Nick Visconti was the brand manager, and I knew him from when I worked at Wendell's, and he called me up and he needed me to do the it was like the year prior, like best of snowboarding videos. I don't know if you ever watched those that they put out. Yeah. It's like he would send me literally a tower, and it was gigs and gigs and gigs, and I had to go through a ton of footage to find the best tricks from every single session of every single snowboarder and put this edit together. When I finished it, I did get paid, and it was awesome. But then he's like, hey, like, Ian's not coming back. Like, do you want to be the head videographer? I'm like, whoa, like, that's really cool. And I was like, well, how much does it pay? And he's like, basically nothing. I was like, I really want to come back, but I don't know. Like, I kind of have a good thing going here.
Yeah.
So I just decided to stay back here, and honestly, it worked out because that whole year prior to that is when we really started No Names and getting it going. Mm-hmm. And that next summer, I helped out at Snowflex Camp again, just continuing like growing what we're doing. So,
yeah. So did No Names start to get like recognition? So you said the year prior, before the Windells thing, No Names was kind of like on the come up and stuff, but did No Names start to get recognized by people that weren't like here in Virginia? Or, like, was it?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was at Windells, that's when Yo Beat was still around. Yeah. And they had a collaboration with High Cascade and Windells, so they were constantly coming to our campus. And because I was in videography, I was giving them footage, and I was constantly talking with them. And that's when Chad, the Catfish Chronicle,
yep.
That's when he worked at Yo Beat, and he was my contact. So we were talking, and when I moved back to Virginia and we decided to start doing the No Names edits, I just kind of linked up with him and was like, hey, like, we're doing this. Do you guys want to, put it on your website and kind of be like the website to push out? He's like, yeah, heck yeah, like, we're all about that stuff, like more local, videos and content like that. So that whole year we did 3 videos, and they all went up on Yo Beat, and some of them got a good amount of views, but it wasn't anything crazy. Yeah. I guess that's probably the first time they started getting outside of like this region.
Got it. So, R.I.P. Yo Beat. But did you? I'm guessing that Yo Beat connection was really good for you guys, kind of for No Names to kind of get out for yourself, because Yo Beat definitely, while it was around, was pretty well known, newspaper. It was definitely bigger here, I would feel like, on the East Coast, because it's all kind of run around this area. But I guess you were probably getting recognized by some other people and stuff like that. Did you have anybody like approach you to do anything else?
Honestly, it was like a couple years before, even in this area, we had like kids like really know who we were. And it probably wasn't until we started doing stuff with Snowboarder. But the Yo Beat thing was really just to like put some legitimacy behind it and like actually have a place where it wasn't like we were just sending in an edit and like hoping that they posted it. They were down enough to be like, yeah, like the content's pretty good, and like just send it to us and we'll post it and we'll write the article. Like they would, the way that those sites worked back then, it was all about, they had so many kids sending them content and videos that there's no way they were going to post all of them. And plus a lot of them didn't even deserve, to be on there. Like, not saying, that it's like a bad video, but like some of them, the content that they were trying to put out was just not what Yo Beat was looking to do. That's why they had all those spoofs, like rejected edits and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it was nice having a legit source to put our content out. It wasn't anywhere near as big as Transworld or Snowboarder. And honestly, our idea about getting on the website, and it's still our idea now, is like, we like being on the websites. Like, it's cool, it makes it legit, but it's not like we're trying to necessarily like spread ourselves out across like the world or the United States.
Yeah.
It's more like showing kids in our area that like, doesn't matter where you live, you can still get published on like big name websites.
Yeah.
Like, it's more that we're trying to go for.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh, let's get someone up in like Washington State to like know who we are. Like,
yeah. Well, you and I kind of talked about that while we talked earlier on the phone about the whole like East versus West Coast kind of thing, and how we have so much going on over here on the East Coast that not a lot of people know about. And I think that's the one thing that No Names crew, now I definitely would tell you that people on the West Coast know who you guys are too, but I definitely have to say that that's the one thing, after I went back and kind of looked at your whole catalog of everything, I'd have to say that No Names has definitely held true to that statement. And shit, you guys haven't even really pushed like farther north even. It's all been kind of like PA, this southern area and everything, which I think is sick, because like I said, you and I had this conversation, but there is so much going on in the East Coast that a lot of people just don't know about or they don't give a shit about. And it's kind of sad.
No, definitely.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely where you guys have helped out and kind of pushed everybody back here to the East Coast. How do you feel about the East Coast versus kind of like the West Coast stuff? And are you
I mean, honestly, like living especially in Richmond, there aren't like a ton of like core snowboarders in this region. Like, you know, it's just the way it is. So anytime I like meet someone new and they're like, oh, like, what do you like doing? You know, like mountain biking, camping, like, oh, I snowboard. And they're like, once they get to know me and they're like, oh, this kid's like really into snowboarding. And they're like, oh, why don't you live out in like Colorado? That's like the number one thing I get. Like, why don't you live in like Breckenridge? It's like, all right. And I had to like nicely explain, like, I don't know, like I've been out west a bunch and I have family that lives out there and stuff, but I grew up here. I like the mountains here. I like the vibe here. Like any mountain you go to here, everyone knows people from other mountains. Everyone's super nice and inviting. It's not like very cliquey and stuff. And like a metal rail here in the ground is a metal rail anywhere. Like, yeah, we don't have huge jumps, but I'm not doing 1260s off a 70-foot kicker, so I could care less.
Yeah.
Like, every mountain has like a really nice community, and everything is really close in terms of driving distance. Like, I mean, for us, we've been doing this for 5 years. We've hit so many resorts through Pennsylvania all the way down through North Carolina, and there's a ton of resorts in this area. So it's kind of cool. There's so many options, which is nice.
How so you guys were going out into Seven Springs and stuff like that. How did you guys get kind of linked up with the people that ride out in like Big Boulder and stuff? I'm thinking like Liam and kind of those guys.
So when I was going to school at Penn State main campus, it's actually right in the middle of the state of Pennsylvania. So it's 2 hours to Seven Springs, 2 hours to Big Boulder. So what we would do is my friends would come stay with me. If we were going to go to Seven Springs that weekend, we'd go to Seven Springs. Normally, Big Boulder opens first in Pennsylvania, and they close last. So we would normally go to Big Boulder in November. Sometimes, I think the earliest was like November 3rd or something like that. So we'd go like really early season, go ride Big Boulder, then go to Seven Springs for the winter season. Then at the end of the season, like Big Boulder would be open till sometimes like mid-April. Then they would do May Day. So we'd go there too. And just kind of like throughout the years, we started becoming friends with people at Big Boulder. But really, it was our one friend in our group, Jason, when he was on Flower City, which is for people that don't know, Flower City is the rep in the Mid-Atlantic that does Capita Coal Union 32. And he's very, very involved in not only helping out stores, but events and helping out riders. He has a very large team, and he does a great job in getting his brands out there. But Jason got hooked up by Flower City, and Liam was on Flower City, and there was a lot of stuff where Flower City people would come to Seven Springs for events, like the Trans Am, and like we would go to Big Boulder for events. So it kind of just, again, traveling to all the different resorts, you just start like meeting people. And then, like, as the years have gone by, we just become better and better friends. So, definitely Liam is, like, a big part of our group now. And that kid he cracks me up. He's awesome.
So sick, too.
Yeah.
He's such a good rider. So, you guys are traveling around doing all these different things. How did you... So, you moved back from Virginia after doing your season in Wendell's. You're filming stuff. How did you kind of... After the Yo Beat thing, how did you kind of keep growing and how did you keep getting it bigger? Obviously, filming more stuff, but...
Yeah, so kind of when Yo Beat was dying off there, they stopped putting out content. It was actually like kind of at the end of the season, so it worked out for us where we weren't really putting anything out. So it was kind of the next year. I think it was... Who was it? Oh, so Mary Walsh, she was, she still works at Snowboarder. She does a lot with the BT Bounds group now, but she at that time she was the online editor for Snowboarder magazine.
Okay.
There was a very, very large snowstorm approaching DC, and she reached out to me and wanted to see if I wanted to do one of those dispatch photo projects. For Snowboarder magazine. We were like, heck yeah. So we kind of hunkered down at Alex's townhouse during that time. It snowed like 3 feet in DC, which happens once every, like, I don't know what they said, like 20 years, something like that. And it was awesome because the whole city was crippled. No one in Northern Virginia, if it snows an inch, 2 inches, people freak out, so no one's going outside. But for us, we were so used to driving in the snow, traveling for snowboarding all over the place that it was like no problem. So we drove all over the city, got a bunch of photos, sent it over. They were really stoked on it. And from that relationship, I just kind of talked to Mary, and she was like, hey, like, I see you guys doing these videos. And we're like, yeah, like, we'd like to do more. Like, do you guys want to take it on? She's like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So that's kind of how we got started with Snowboarder. And it wasn't really like, you know, like we were like a premier content piece or anything. We were definitely still at like the lower end, like, we kind of have this. But for us, it was, again, just being like, hey, like, kids, look, like, we're on Snowboarder magazine.
Yep.
So it was just nice over the years sending content. Each time we did a video, sent content, they would put it up. And they just supported us more and more. And then when Super Park came to Seven Springs, you know, we were able to get an invite because we not only rode there, but I feel like because we had like a relationship at least with Mary and stuff. So that's kind of how we got started and all that, and growing it a little bit bigger.
That's it. Do you remember who like the crew for that dispatch was?
It was me, Alex, Hannah, and Jason.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they didn't, because I remember seeing back in the day that they like sent out a bunch of pros. Like there was a bunch of
that was a couple years before we did it, and that was Gus Angle, Chris Bradshaw, who else was there? There was Jake Kuzik was there, and someone else. That was that was about probably 5 or 6 years before we even did it, and that was pretty cool when they came and did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was something just smaller, just like for online. Just yeah.
That's how do you. Speaking of that, the online thing, how do you feel about magazines kind of making that switch from going to print only to now? Obviously, the online presence has to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, I know everyone is talking about this topic right now. I mean, growing up, like, I had a million magazines. And for me, actually, even though I was into snowboarding and skateboarding, most of the magazines I would get were wakeboarding magazines because my cousins were pros.
Yeah.
Like, my mom subscribed me to that so I could, like, see them in magazines and stuff. But I still had, like, a fair amount of Transworld and some Snowboarder. Honestly, I don't know why, I just had a lot of Transworld growing up. Mm-hmm. And it was, you know, I liked reading it and the pictures and stuff. But once, obviously, like, social media and stuff came out, like, naturally, like, it's just more engaging. Like, it sucks because it's kind of cool to have that stuff, but I mean, me personally, like, I honestly hate reading stuff. So if I can just watch a video, like, it's a little more enjoyable, and I can get the content faster. I don't think snowboard magazines or even magazines in general are going to completely die off. I think they just need to adapt. I don't know if you like follow like Barstool Sports at all, like. They're like a humongous media company now, but they don't do any magazines. They just do content. Like, I think snowboard magazines, skateboard magazines, surf magazines, doesn't matter what it is. I think they could follow that model a little bit more and like just do more like original content and replace what they're currently doing. I think it'll continue to keep people engaged and stuff within their own industry.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, personally, I like looking at magazines. I'm actually a big reader. I'm avid, love reading and stuff like that. And I feel like I'm more of a tactile person.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely there more for like the photos and the ads that are in it.
Yeah.
And I like watching videos. I think we all like watching videos. I'm not entirely sure.
It's definitely different. Media. It's definitely different for everyone. Like I don't know. I just hate reading.
Do you feel like do you think social media has, like, obviously social media, for better or for worse, has a place in snowboarding right now in the community? Do you like it? Or are you about, like, the minute-long videos and stuff? Or would you rather see something that's a little bit more fresh?
No, honestly, I honestly, this last year, I probably have watched 5 snowboard edits online. And it's not because, like, there's not enough of them. I feel like the quality and the thought going into them has gone down, like, a ton. Like, I remember when I was watching snowboard edits even like 6 or 7 years ago, everyone that was putting stuff out, like, there was so much good stuff All of the Solomon videos were amazing. All the Lunatic videos were really good. All those, like Sunday in the Park, all that kind of stuff was like awesome. And it was long and it was thought out. And it was filmed good too. I feel like all this content coming out, it's just like filmed kind of crappy and it doesn't really tell a story. Like my favorite edits growing up were the High Cascade edits back in like 2009, 10, and 11. Like those edits were amazing. The song choice, the riders, the filming, just the way they put the clips together. Like it told a story and it made you really want to go to camp. It was more than just snowboarding. It was like everyone was having fun, but it showed off like what Oregon was like in the summer. So I will agree, like, yeah, content has probably increased, but like the quality has gone down a ton. And honestly, I mean, yeah, I'm a filmer, but like it is kind of annoying when we go to the hill and it's like, oh, we have to film like everything. Like, oh, let's get an iPhone clip for our story. It's like, I don't know, can we just snowboard? Like, who cares?
How do you feel about kids filming clips on iPhones? You here for it or no?
I mean, it definitely helps people get into filming. If you really like filming and you don't have a lot of money, like if you have a phone, like it helps you. They're pretty good now. Actually, Ian joked at Wendell's way back then. He's like, yeah, in a couple of years, like no one's gonna film with pro cameras. People are gonna film their full parts on like iPhones, and like I don't know, maybe soon. Like I feel like most content on Instagram nowadays just iPhone, which isn't bad. They're pretty good. Like my buddy Jason, that's all the content he films is iPhone, and they turn out pretty good. Just like normal 4x5 vertical, like looks fine. I don't know.
I agree with you that I think as we move on, the iPhone has a place as like your starting off camera, but I really hope that it doesn't hold on as like a normal trend because I can tell. Like if for the trained eye, you can tell that it's an iPhone clip. Even if it looks really, really good, you still know like that's an iPhone clip. And there's something about it that seems so, I don't know, it just doesn't, like you kind of said, there's not as much thought going into it. Like the production quality isn't as tight anymore. It's just like, oh, well, why do that? I can just film it on an iPhone or something like that. And that to me kind of blows my mind. Like I'm not really here for that. But I understand too that we're living in the modern world with social media where it's like I got to turn out a video like every week because if not, no one's going to even remember who I am. And that sucks too. Yeah, I mean,
in my personal like business, like we do a lot with video and stuff and marketing, and I mean, in order for video to work, like it needs to be like an amazing video for people to watch it. Like all these online forums are talking about how long videos are dead, and I will agree most long videos are dead. But if you really want people to engage with your business or just engage with you in general, like you got to make something amazing. For example, like do you know who Ken Block is? Like like all of his videos, like I mean they get millions of views because they're filmed really nice and it's a really cool thing. Like it's not normal. Like there's no one else really doing that. So they stand out. And like companies like Ford are paying him. Like that's great marketing for them. It's way better than like a crappy whatever Ford ad. Like you're not going to really watch that. But someone doing rally car, like doing crazy stuff, like, whoa, what is this? You're going to watch the whole video. And then subconsciously you're going to be like, oh yeah, he drives for Ford, blah, blah, blah. He drives for this other company. Oh, I trust those companies. So I think like snowboard content is the same way, where if you spend time and film it and make it really awesome, like that video came out this year called Soft. I don't know if you watched that at all. There's a clip where a guy does a method for like literally 30 seconds. It's so slow out of a super pipe, and like an awesome song and everything. It's like super artsy, and it like was way different than anything I watched all year. It was super high quality. And that video was like really, really cool. And that stuck with me. I can't even name you a video I watched like last week where I was like, oh yeah, like I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that is definitely something that you need to do. Everything has to be original and done right, but it has to be like an original idea. And that doesn't necessarily mean like, all right, I have to do, now everybody's doing quad cork, so I got to do the 5 cork or something like that. It can be like, no, you can. There's a reason why dudes like Scott Stevens have stuck out over all these generations is because their riding is so unique. And it's like, I mean, look at half the features that he rides. It's like tiny little stuff, but he's just doing such weird shit on it that it's so cool to watch.
Yep.
And like, kind of to bring it back full circle, I think that's what's great about movies like Left Brain, Right, or Right Brain, Left Brain.
Yeah,
left
yeah.
Brain, right Brain, I forget. But that's what's like so good about those movies and the Think Tank videos is because they did it, like not necessarily all the tricks are the best tricks, but they filmed it and put so much into it that it became like a top-notch production. Basically.
Definitely.
And like it doesn't take the craziest stuff to do it. It just takes a little bit of creativity and ingenuity, you know?
Definitely.
And I think that's definitely kind of the next level of where we're pushing this. So, to go back, you got linked up with Snowboarder, you did this dispatch stuff. Did you continue working with Snowboarder and doing some other stuff for them, or did you...
No, it's just kind of just us just sending our videos in. Mm-hmm. I think we I'm trying to remember, did we do another... I think we talked about maybe doing another dispatch, but it kind of like fell through. It wasn't the end of the world for us. It was kind of cool just to do one and just get it out there. Mm-hmm. Especially since, I mean, we shot photos and like we didn't really film at all during that storm.
Yeah.
And like none of us are really like that amazing at like photographers, and we just shot it all on like a T3i. Actually, no, it was a T2i because it was Jason's T2i. And they actually turned out like pretty decent. I was pretty hyped on how the photos turned out for like no one really being a photographer and it kind of being like a shit show and stuff like snow wise. Like, I don't know, turned out pretty decent. So just kind of focused on the videos after that.
I feel that. Was there any spots that like really stuck out to you there in DC?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is probably the coolest photo of the whole trip. Do you know what the Lincoln Memorial is?
Yeah.
So on the backside, or the Lincoln Memorial has a giant street. It's like a big circle that goes around it. Mm-hmm. And we were coming around, and randomly on the backside, there's probably, like the back of the Lincoln Memorial, I don't know, it's probably like a 12, 15-foot drop off, just like ledge. That's how it is all the way around.
Yeah.
But on the back, there was this random pile of snow just like right in the middle. And we're like, what the heck? It was like a perfect landing. So it's probably like 150, 200 feet, like across off the road on this like field till you even get to it. And Jason and Alex like ran out of the car, and Jason was gonna Marvin plan it, like that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So Alex like stood there, and Jason like ran up, like strapped in, and like the park police were like coming around, and Jason like unstrapped, ran around. They kept driving, and then he ran back, like dropped in, does a Marvin plant, like first try, perfect. Alex was actually still like focusing and just randomly shot it. And then they ran back to the car as me and Hannah were driving in the car, coming back around. They like jumped in the car and we like drove off. So like they somehow didn't get caught, but it was like the coolest photo. Everything worked. It looks amazing.
That's tight.
So yeah, that photo was really cool, especially being on like a big monument like in DC, like that everyone knows. Like I don't know.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Super iconic.
We weren't really going to do anything else on any other monument. It was kind of, that was the only one that was really available.
Was it just something impromptu, or did you guys like...
It was literally impromptu. We were just driving by like, oh my gosh, why is there a pile of snow?
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect.
It was calling to you.
Yeah.
That's what it wanted you to do. So you guys did the dispatch with Snowboarder Mag. Now you guys are kind of doing all your different videos. I've seen you guys do the Seven Springs one, the Big Boulder one. I think I saw a Wintergreen one and stuff. Are you guys doing more of those videos and stuff? Or are you...
Yep. So kind of the plan now is just keep doing the videos. You know, they don't get a ton of views anymore, but it's not because that, you know, it's kind of what we just talked about a little bit. But honestly, like, we really just care about people in our region seeing it, and it still gets enough views where there's people from our region viewing it. Like, I'm pretty heavy on our Instagram account, making sure, like, every time there's a new follow, like, seeing who the person is. There's actually, like, I would say, like, 60-70% of our followers are from this region, like, which is what we want. Like, even though we only have, like, 3,500 followers, it's, like, that's a ton of people and kids that follow us in this area. So the plan is to keep doing the videos, normally try to travel to, like, 2 or 3 different resorts that we haven't been to. Mm-hmm. So this past season we did Bear Creek in Pennsylvania. Yep. And then we did App Terrain Park in North Carolina. So I think we've done probably 11 so far. We've done Snowflex, Wisp, Seven Springs. Let's see what else. App. I'm missing a bunch. Wintergreen, Big Boulder. I don't know. Yeah, Bear Creek. So every year we're just trying to do more and more. And each time we go to a new resort, like it's kind of cool now. We've been doing it enough where like kids recognize who we are, so they get pretty hyped and normally get a couple shots of some locals in there and stuff.
Nice.
So yeah.
So with you said at North Carolina, can you obviously for a vast majority of snowboarders, they don't really think of North Carolina as like any home of the scene yet. When you actually look at the history of it, you got guys like Luke Winkleman and Zeb Powell coming out of there, and it's actually a quite, I don't know, like a backwoods. It's like there is a snowboard.
No one really knows about it. Like even Pennsylvania wise, like people don't really know that honestly you can snowboard in Virginia or Tennessee or North Carolina. But yeah, North Carolina has an amazing scene. They have a great shop there called Recess. And JP, the owner, does a great job with like trying to get and grow the scene as much as possible. Whether it's like events on hill, but also in the summer, he's been pushing for like a skate park in their town.
That's sick.
There's just so much to do down there in North Carolina, like in the summer, like mountain biking, camping. I was telling you before this, North Carolina actually has the highest elevation on the whole East Coast. Yeah. And they actually have pretty big mountains down there. They don't get a ton of snow, but they do have relatively high elevation where it does get cold enough, and a lot of the resorts have really good snow guns. They can pump out a ton of snow really fast. Sorry.
What does the season look like at North Carolina? When does it like start and when is it like?
Yeah, actually, there's one mountain down there called Cataloochee, and they've opened sometimes like at the beginning of November. I think one year they opened at the end of October.
Damn.
So like I said, the elevation helps them open. And most of the time they're open through beginning mid-April. So really, if you think about it, like places like Brighton Resort and like Bear Mountain are open just as long as like places in North Carolina. Now, obviously Brighton is going to have snow before that and after that when it's not open. But for regular chairlift access, like it's open just as long. It might not be like the same quality in terms of like size of park and stuff, but honestly, App Mountain, like when we filmed our edit there, I've been there before, but that place is so fun. It's not that tall of a mountain. It has a couple runs, but they have more features than Seven Springs does. Like it's absolutely insane how many rails that they have there. They're not all in at the same time, but like they have a ton of features they can put. So
I think that's the one thing on the East Coast too, is that because there is not so much, vertical terrain, you don't see anybody really like hitting the backcountry. Everything becomes like parks and all about rails and stuff like that. And that's one reason why last year when I was living out in Colorado, I didn't really like it because there wasn't like, I'm used to riding here on the East Coast where Big Boulder is literally a whole mountain dedicated to a terrain park. There's only one trail that doesn't have a rail on it. And like that was sick to be able to do that, and it was just constantly taking rail laps. But on the West Coast, a lot of the mountains really don't have that. And actually the worst part too is a lot of their mountains don't even like really push the park scene. There's a few here and there that do, like Big Bear obviously, like Bear Mountain definitely does. Brighton definitely does, a couple of others, but like Colorado, you got Copper and that's like it. Everyone else is kind of like, our parks are there, but like they aren't doing anything. And that's a difference with like East Coast.
It's kind of like they can't grow their terrain, so the only way to grow is to add more stuff for people to come up more often, which if you add a terrain park, it helps grow not only like your local like core kid following, which isn't going to be that much, but honestly what it really helps grow is like there's always little kids that like they see that kind of stuff, especially on TV now. So there's tons of like school programs and stuff that come to these mountains, and it just helps like drive more and more kids to like be excited about skiing and snowboarding and like get up to the hill and like try it out as they grow up. Hopefully they'll keep coming back. They'll tell friends. Maybe they'll even get their family into it. All that kind of stuff. So I would agree. Like out west, I mean, there's obviously amazing parks out there. Not trying to like put that down at all. But out here, like because all the mountains are so small, it's like their only option is like, well, let's like make a pretty good experience. So
make it a good terrain park and everything. With No Names Crew, what are you guys pushing for like this season?
Definitely the mountains we want to go to is Snowshoe, West Virginia. We've been going there for years, and if you don't know, Snowshoe is actually one of probably the biggest resort in the Southeast. It's at almost 5,000 feet elevation, and it actually gets a crap ton of snow. It's right where those like Lake Michigan and stuff, those weather systems that come through Minnesota and Michigan, they hit West Virginia there before they go into Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. So right there, because they have high elevation, they get a ton of snow. And that mountain is actually really, really fun. I don't know if it's going to happen this season, but something we've wanted to do for a long time, which would like really be like, all right, you guys are the Southeast Filming Group. Mm-hmm. There's a ski resort in Alabama, and it's only open for a month and a half. It's at the most northeast tip of Alabama. It's called Cloudmont. It's about a 150-foot strip of snow with a rope tow, and that's it. I don't know what we do, like film butters or something. I don't know if they'd let us bring a corrugated pipe or something like that.
Yeah.
But it'd just be kind of one of those cool things to be like, yeah, we went skiing or we went snowboarding in Alabama. Yeah. So, and that's the most southern ski resort on the East Coast.
That's totally tight. I definitely feel that would definitely set you apart. Once again, right? That's original content that nobody's ever done, even if it's stupid shit, you know?
Exactly.
Like put a corrugated up there, like try to build like a little kicker where they can't see you or something, and like just hit that, like do.
It'd be cool.
Stuff. Yeah, it really would be. That would be tight. Have you guys thought about going farther northeast or?
All right. So I mean, people ask us that too. They're like, "Why don't you come to like Vermont, New Hampshire?" And it's like, you know, we know there's awesome parks up there, but we kind of feel like it's outside of our not our reach, but like we grew up here and we're kind of trying to like do our own region. It's almost like the Northeast. It's like it's a whole other beast. And I feel like there's some good groups up there already doing their own thing. So I'm not trying to like take over the whole East Coast. Like we're just trying to like Pennsylvania down, like, you know, it's all within, it's more like, again, it's trying to get people educated and get kids excited that like, yeah, you can live in Virginia, you can live in Pennsylvania, but look at all these places that are within like, you know, a 5-6 hour drive that you can go to. Mm-hmm. That's what we're trying to do, instead of like, hey, like obviously you can go all the way to, I don't know, Sugarloaf, Maine, but you know, that's going to be 12, 13 hours from here.
Yeah.
Not saying it's bad, it's just, I feel like there's already a lot of groups up in the Northeast that are doing a good job.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to like kind of go in their zone, you know what I mean?
You want to fringe on their territory almost.
Exactly.
Yeah. What groups up in the Northeast do you?
All right, so obviously all the Corinthia dudes are doing a great job. I'm pretty good friends with Max Lyons, and like he's not just at the resort, but they've done a lot of stuff, filming in like the streets and stuff up there with Devin Bernard and like Sugarbush. There's all those kids at Loon that I feel like are putting out some good content. And obviously, like people like the Yagoons and stuff like that. Like we're nowhere near on the same level as the Yagoons. Like they are definitely the kings of the East Coast, and that is awesome. But like again, it doesn't make sense for us to go to Yagoo Valley. Like no one wants to see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they do such a good job of like killing it there already. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
They are next level. See, once again, original content and original like approach to stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. You wouldn't think that you could watch someone do carves like down this tiny ass little hill, but here we are, like watching him knock out cars and stuff and doing wild tricks on like all the features that they build. So that's definitely sick. Are you guys thinking about putting together like a fuller length video at all?
Yeah, I don't know. We thought about doing it again, maybe, but now that we're like a little older and we got jobs and stuff, and like we're still snowboarding all the time, but there's definitely like other stuff to do besides snowboarding sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like especially here on the East Coast, surfing is actually better in the winter than it is in the summer. Yep. So we didn't necessarily go in the winter last year. We went in the spring and fall. But I think this year we're probably going to try to go at least once or twice in the winter if the waves are looking like really awesome. It's just stuff like that. It's like we're still in love with snowboarding and we're still doing it. It's just like there's other stuff that we also want to do that's like just as fun. Like even if I have to wear a wetsuit and go surfing, like if the waves are awesome, like I love surfing, you know?
Yeah.
But right now it's fun. Just like, all right, guys, we're going to ride our local mountain. And then like this month we've been talking and it looks like we're probably going to go to, I don't know, like Snowshoe and film or edit. And then everyone gets all excited and it's like a big thing. Like let's drive there Friday night. Let's film all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and let's like send it back. Like we kind of have it on lock where we can film like a whole video in 2 days. In the case of Wintergreen, we actually filmed that entire video in 1 day. While me and Alex both had the flu. We were like dying. So it was like all odds against us. But we kind of have it down to a science where we can get in, get out. The resorts are pretty stoked that we're there. It's like some different content for them. And it's fun because we get to travel to different resorts and kind of ride different areas that you normally wouldn't get to do, you know. So,
or you wouldn't even see videos of. I'm sure you're probably one of the only videos in Wintergreen or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys talk to the resorts at all about doing stuff, or is it just kind of like, well, this is where we're going? And
no, every time we talk to the resorts, and we talk with either the head park builder, the park manager, the marketing manager, whoever it is at the resort that needs to know that we're coming. They normally compensate us with like passes and whatever else we need. Normally what we do now that we have it on kind of, like I said, like the science is all dialed, normally hit up the marketing person, let them know, try to see if like, hey, here's what we do this for resorts. Like all I need is like this many passes. Most of the time they're like, you know what, this makes sense. Like it doesn't cost them anything to print a pass. Like if we don't come, then we don't come. Like it's not like they're losing any money. We always spend money anyways on food while we're there. And then when we get there, meet the park crew. Normally they generally know who we are, or we might already know someone on the park crew. And just kind of like, hey, is it cool if we can get like a shovel and a rake like for ourselves? Because the way we film, because we have 2 days, we normally just move from like feature to feature to feature, and just like people are trying tricks, and we need to just not wait for the park crew to come fix something if we need to. So normally once we get that stuff and we show up, we just kind of just start somewhere, and by lunchtime the first day we just start assessing like, all right, here's what we have in terms of footage, like here's what each person has. Everyone kind of generally needs to have this many to like have like a part in the video. And then from there we just like the rest of the day just film. The next day is like, all right, how did we do the first day? Oh, we have nothing. Like, okay, crap. Or it's like, all right, we're doing good. We have a ton of footage.
Have you guys ever... Well, actually, first, have you ever gotten, like, rejected by, like, the marketing people? Have they ever been like, nah, we don't want this? Or the park crew dudes? Have the park crew dudes ever been like,
I don't think so. I think every resort we've been to has been pretty stoked. The only resort that it wasn't that they weren't stoked. I think it was 2 years ago we tried to do Snowshoe, but it was a weird combination of it like raining a ton right before we went, and also like there was this other event coming in and they already gave a bunch of passes out for that, so it just didn't really like align. That's why we haven't been able to do it since then. Like last year we were pretty busy doing some other stuff. We not other stuff, but like Bear Creek just made more sense for us to go do. So this year, you know, again trying to do Snowshoe, but really no, I don't think not a single resort has been like, no, we don't really want you guys here or anything like that.
That's pretty dope.
So, yeah.
That's always good to have that kind of support from the resorts that you're always working with and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Obviously, so you guys have, more videos coming out and everything like that. Is there any other things in the works? Are you guys doing anything else? Or?
So, like I said, we kind of like to do some other stuff on the side. Not kind of, but like we do like to do some other stuff on the side, like skate, surf, camp, mountain bike. Not that I want to like fully turn it into something like that, like No Names into something like that, but I think what would be cool is kind of like, I don't know if you follow Chris Grenier at all.
Yep.
But like he I think does an amazing job of like not necessarily selling snowboarding, but like selling the lifestyle of just being like, all right, like an active person. Like he obviously is a pro snowboarder and he posts a lot about snowboarding, but he also is like really into dirt bikes and mountain bikes and like skating, and he kind of posts like all that stuff. So it's not just like you're only seeing snowboard clips.
Yep.
So I think what I'd like to do is like slowly start like posting more stuff like that, especially in the summertime when we have less content.
Yeah.
Just to try to get more of like No Names as a group is like, here's what we're doing. Also start incorporating like everyone's content into the account, because I'm the only one running it. It's like sometimes I don't have time to post stuff and everyone's doing stuff. Like our one rider, Jason, he is in New Zealand right now snowboarding. So like he has a bunch of awesome content that like, you know, he could be passing on and sharing himself like on the account. So probably trying to do more stuff like that. Just have everyone put in a little bit more, I guess like of their time to like build it up a little bit more and make it a little bit more broad. Still keeping to like this audience, but showing kids like, you know, out west is cool and northeast is cool, but there's more than just like snowboarding too here. There's also other really cool stuff to do. Yeah. So maybe go in that direction some too.
I feel that. That's probably kind of sloping into you guys getting a little bit older, and obviously
definitely,
you know, some real life things have to kind of take precedent. You know, your bills got to get paid and stuff like that. Obviously.
Yeah, definitely work. You know, work kicks in, and it doesn't allow you to do everything you want to do, but it allows you to do everything you want to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally does. It allows you to go out there and travel and do what you need to do and everything. Have you? This will be my final question for you. Have it's kind of a weird one to go out on, but like you're talking about doing jobs and everything. Have you ever, besides your kind of experience at Wendell's, have you ever kind of got the cubes to fall together where snowboarding filming is paid well, or not really?
Not necessarily, no. When I was at Wendell's, I talked to a couple people that passed through about maybe doing video projects. It was kind of like minor talks, and they just generally let me know, like, here's what might happen. And again, it was more like, all right, you're going to be gone for like this long and do this. And I don't know. It just wasn't like what I was trying to do. Mm-hmm. So, no, I haven't really got paid to do anything really. Like maybe that one final big edit from Wendell's that they made me do, technically I got paid for, but like, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of just part of like the Wendell's thing. It wasn't like an outside project for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Filming is just a hobby for me now. Like, it's pretty cool that I have some skills that I can film like semi decent edits, and like I feel like most people that don't really get to do that, which makes us look a little bit more legit. Actually, to add to that, which is cool, here in Richmond in the skateboard scene is a group of friends. They're called the Bus Crew, very similar to us. They've been around way longer than us, and they're way more legit. But they grew up in Richmond, and one of the riders is Gilbert Crockett. He's pro for Vans.
Yeah.
He moved to LA. He hated it. He moved back, and he was like, yeah, I'd rather just skate with my friends that, like, they have jobs, but, like, they're way more fired up to go skating after work than, like, all these pros I'm hanging out with in LA that all they do is skate. Mm-hmm. But it's cool because the one guy is the filmer, and I've met him a few times. And he's a good filmer, and they film, like, legit skate videos. But they live in Richmond, Virginia, which, I mean, it's not, like, I love the city, but obviously skateboarding is like LA. That's where everyone is. It's the same in snowboarding too, though. Everyone's like, oh, move to Utah.
Yeah. Either you're in Salt Lake or you're in California somewhere.
So it's kind of cool to see like literally like a mirror image of us, but in the skate scene, like doing stuff here too. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they don't really care. They're just doing their thing, and like it's working out. And it's awesome for the locals. Like going to movie premieres here is so cool. Like the following that they have. So
that's tight. Is there a lot of video premieres that roll through?
Yeah, they did one like probably a month ago, and then there was one before that in like, I don't know, February, something like that. So normally a couple a year.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Sweet. Any last words, shout outs to the people that have supported you over the years?
Yeah, so definitely 2 shops, Alpine Ski Shop in Northern Virginia has helped us out a ton, and then Always Board outside of Seven Springs, that has been kind of our 2 big shop sponsors, and both of those places are awesome. The people are super nice. They're super into the different activities, and they know a lot of stuff. I feel like all the different reps that have either hooked me up or all my friends over the years have been a huge help in terms of us getting product to actually be able to do this. Because, I mean, we definitely have broken boards, bindings, boots, all that crap.
Everything.
Everyone at all the resorts that I guess have helped us like film our edits and park managers and such. Like, thank you so much. Joe Genovese at Seven Springs has been a huge supporter, inviting us to Seven Springs events, but also helping us do some other stuff. And I guess just go follow us on Instagram, No Names Crew. Unfortunately, at No Names was taken, and it's an account that doesn't have a profile picture, 0 posts, 0 followers, 0 likes, and we can't get it. So, No Names Crew, follow us there, and I don't know, check out some of our videos on Vimeo. So.